The words that will comfort me, I am. The words that inspire me, I am.
Hello, and welcome to That Oneness Guy podcast, a podcast covering the many aspects and elements that embody oneness, our inherent eternal truth and birthright, reminding us that we are connected to one and all as individualized expressions of one source. I am your host, Danny Rongo, and yes, I am that oneness guy. As an author, speaker, and singer-songwriter, I continue to share my unique message of oneness. So, let's get right into podcasting.
To words that encourage me, I am.
Hello, my friends in oneness, and thank you for tuning in. You know, I'm really looking forward to this episode because I get to speak with someone whose very moniker and brand represent exactly what I've been touting most recently, and that is none other than oneness and wellness. And I'm going to tell you how I flip those words in a second. Now, I started following the posts and messages of Emily Jennings a few months ago. I find her work so very inspiring as she speaks honestly and passionately from her heart and shares so many ways for us to implement wellness and oneness into our busy lives. So, my friends, let me tell you a little about her. Emily is a spiritual writer, teacher, and philosopher located in Maryland, right here in the great US of A. She writes about wellness and oneness with a focus on universal love. I just love that. Through teaching meditation and Ayurveda, as well as writing, Emily hopes to inspire others to find truth, consciousness, and bliss for a better world. There is nothing that thrills her more than to see others awaken to their inner wisdom and reach a higher level of awareness. So, my friends in oneness, as you can imagine, I'm very excited to hear and learn more about the spirituality that my guest will be sharing with us all. So please say hello to my new friend in Wellness and Oneness, Emily Jennings. Hello, Emily.
Hello, Danny. Thank you for having me.
Oh, please, my dear. Thank you so much for coming on board. I appreciate it. Like we spoke about briefly, I've been following your insight, as I like to dub it, for quite some time now, and you've been so inspiring to me, especially just based on your whole moniker, like I mentioned, Emily, of wellness and oneness. It's very important in my life right now, and my listeners know why. But I just want to thank you for sharing your passion with that. And as I like to say to all my guests, again, give us your background, what led you to your spirituality, what led you to find or create wellness and oneness. So tell us all about Emily Jennings.
Okay. So I guess my spirituality, I should start and go back to like middle school, maybe even earlier. I've always been asking, like, why are we here? What is this place? When it didn't ever seem like other people were. But I was very drawn to Buddhism and meditation, even as a teenager. But I kind of strayed from that path a bit. I did get a master's degree in philosophy along the way. But really in the last few years, so this was summer 2020, I had an event in my life where I do believe most people's spiritual awakenings are tied to some kind of traumatic event. So
I agree with that, because I catch that a lot, especially from my guests, Emily. They do say that same kind of introduction like that it was something,
yeah.
but something like traumatic, like you said. So go ahead, continue.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I agree. The universe has to push you into an uncomfortable place for you to look carefully at reality, right? So that time it was, there's been a few other uncomfortable, traumatic things happen since then, but that was—
How long ago was that, Emily, if you don't mind I asking?
That was summer 2020, so that's almost 2 years
relatively
ago.
recent. Okay.
Yeah. Well, because I was getting spiritual before. I was doing yoga a lot. I meditated, not as much as I do now, but I was on the path, but I wasn't committed to it. I had
Okay.
like I was a software engineer, I had a full-time job. I was a mom of a small child. And I was just kind of like spirituality was just kind of like a side thing, like a hobby. I
Hmm.
didn't, but then so my marriage ended abruptly, as some people's did in the pandemic. That was right after the pandemic started.
I was
And
going to ask if COVID had any,
well, of course it
anything
did,
to
right?
do with
Well,
your spirituality. I mean, not about your marriage,
it
but
does. In
okay.
actually going back before that even happened, when the pandemic started, I had a strong feeling of this collective energy that, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. It's just like Mother Earth or the universe was like, no, humanity, you need to wake up as a collective, and like, here's something I'm gonna throw at you. And I felt that strongly. Like I was
Right?
excited. I was like, oh my God, people actually have to think about how they've been living, and they can't go out to brunch every weekend, and they can't
Think
go out.
about it.
Yeah.
I actually started calling it a clarity for humanity because there was no other way to look at it from our perspective as a spiritualist, but to say, hey, this is going to clean out a lot of whatever negative or negativity in the world. So that's how, I started calling it a clarity for humanity. Yeah, to your
Yeah.
point, the truth.
And a lot of people had to really face what their lives were like. They had to be alone and think about themselves, all kinds of things, right? And
Yeah.
be with their partners trapped in a small apartment like I was. But yeah, so that happened. And yeah, it was related to the pandemic, but it needed to happen, as I think most things did, that traumatic things that might have happened around that time with people. It's like you're shedding your karmic baggage, and like that forced us to kind of see that. Anyway, I won't go into all the details of that, but my marriage ended, and it was it was like the next day, I remember feeling kind of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, where she comes out the door and everything's suddenly in color. And
Wow.
wow, what have I
That's
been missing
nice.
all this time? Because I was depressed before that. I couldn't see clearly, right? And I was just like, wow, I felt like the trees were talking to me. I was like, what is reality? This is wonderful. And around that time, I guess I bought a book about the chakras. I'd never known what the chakras really were. And I thought, this is the time, like, maybe this is real. Chakras are real. What are they? So I bought a book called The Wheels of Life by Anadia Judas, which is a famous book about chakras. And in the very beginning, she mentions Ayurveda. And that I'll attribute, like, my real spiritual journey. The real beginning was with Ayurveda. And
Okay.
Ayurveda is an ancient system of healing that goes back at least 5,000 years in India, but it had spread all over that part of the world. And I bought a book about that, and I was just enlightened because I had been dealing with horrible heartburn and like weird food allergies, and no doctor could really solve it. They were like, take out this part of your diet and then reintroduce it after a month, like clear out your system. But Ayurveda tells you, you are different from every other human. We all have a different makeup. You just shouldn't eat some things. Like, and here's why. And Ayurveda tells us that our bodies are manifestations of our consciousness. And hierarchically, or I don't even know if that's the right word, but like, we have our physical existence at one level. That's what we seem to be so aware of, more
Hmm.
aware of than other parts of us.
Oh, of course.
But then we have our mental existence and we have our spiritual existence. And when you go all the way to the top, there's oneness, and that is the universal soul. Then you have your individual soul, and then you have like a soul, like archetypal soul, collective soul
Hmm.
with other humans, and then you have your mind and your ego, and then you have your body, and then you are complete. It's actually oneness when you get down all the way to the bottom of the physical part, because you are completely connected to the whole world around you. you're breathing the air, shedding your skin cells, eating the food, excreting. So you're in constant exchange. There's actually you cannot say what the boundaries of you and the environment are, really. So anyway, so that really woke me up, thinking about my body that way. So it did start with like a physical health journey, but then I realized I had to balance all the rest of my existence with Ayurveda. Goes into meditation and aromatherapy and all the, like, getting in balance with nature, going to sleep when the sun goes down and waking up when it comes up, like humans are supposed to.
No, you're right.
A lot of people argue with that, but anyway, so that was so life-changing to me. I started seeing people around me and being like, well, their makeup is this way, they probably shouldn't be doing that way. I wouldn't preach to them and stuff. But then I was still a software engineer and I was a single mom. That was November 2020. I get an email from Chopra, the Chopra Global, Deepak Chopra's company, saying, would you like to start a career as a health instructor and like a wellness instructor? And I was like,
now, how did they find you?
oh, I was on their email list.
Oh, okay.
Well, Deepak Chopra had just released a book called Total Meditation and an app. He has a meditation app. And I only was on their mailing list for like a month before that.
Wow.
So they were like, would you like to be a health instructor? They've been doing certifications for years, but they had just started doing them completely virtual. And I was like, yeah, I would like to teach other people this. And I looked into it. Deepak Chopra's whole thing is Ayurveda. I actually,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And and I was like, I love Deepak Chopra. And I was like, oh my God, the universe is telling me I have to do this, but I'm a software engineer. Am I crazy? And I thought I could do it alongside it. But I'll be honest with you, enough time has passed now that I can come out and say, then literally right after that, I was contemplating this, not literally right after, a few days later, at work, things started to take a turn. And it was clear to me that the universe was pushing me out of that job because I was never going to quit. I lost my job.
You lost it, right?
But over the time period, it took 60 days from then. They put me on like an improvement plan or whatever until the end. I started realizing maybe this isn't for me.
And it's funny about the timing of it too. Think about it that way too. You know,
divine timing.
Why did you get laid off at that time? The same thing happened to me, Emily. You know, I worked on Wall Street for 30 years. I got laid off in March of 2016. And something that I obviously would not have chosen to do, especially after a 30-year career. I was hoping to get out maybe like another 10 before I said sayonara and left. But no, sometimes the universe, like you said, it has its ways to nudge us, right? In an area. And like, I wasn't ready for it. My wife wasn't ready for it. We had to make drastic changes, which we did. But I'll tell you, since that, I know, I published my books. I started this podcast. I've been helping in so many ways, and everything that I do now, even as a vocation, or during the days I work as a paraprofessional where I help kids in an elementary school. And, everything that I do resonates with me now so much more, because I didn't have any kind of passion or internal driving when I was working on Wall Street for 30 years. I enjoyed what I did. I was very good at it, but it didn't gratify me. And I'm sure that's similar to what you're saying. Yeah. Because now you found this light in your work now.
That's right. Yeah. So then I became very free to figure out what the heck I was going to do next. And fast forward to now, I am currently writing my first book. And it's basically about oneness. It's about twin flames, which is about oneness, in my opinion.
Nice.
And then I teach meditation. I've been teaching Ayurveda for a year. So I'm certified in those two things with Chopra. I write. I don't know why. When I list off all the things I do, I sometimes forget. There's a lot of
you're
stuff.
right.
I do
you
a
write
lot of
very
stuff.
well, I might add as well too, because like out of your work, what I've been looking through, I love it. You have a great tone to your writing.
Thank you. Yeah. So around that same time, when I was studying Ayurveda and before I thought I would be a wellness instructor, I got on Medium and I was just like, I'm just going to write about spiritual things. If it inspires or helps someone, cool. I didn't even know you could get paid on Medium as a writer at
Yeah.
that time. And then 2 months later, I signed up for the paid program. And then only a few weeks after that, one of my articles, Medium, the staff at Medium picked one of my articles and put it in their newsletter to every member, and it went viral.
That's tough
That
because
never
I've like submitted dozens of like pieces of work to like Medium, and it's a tough process to even get your foot in the door. So good for you. That's great.
Thank you. Well, I also believe it was not, I believe everything happens for a reason. This picture here reminds me that you can't see it from there, but it says everything happens for a reason. Everything
That's
really
right.
does happen for a reason. So I took that as a sign. I was like, I'm supposed to be writing and I don't know where it's going to take me, but I have to keep doing it. So I have been writing on Medium and I get paid for that. So when people sign up as a paid member, which is $5 a month or something, anyone listening, I have a referred membership on my page.
Oh,
Sign up for, but and then if you're a paid member, part of your monthly fee goes to me. If you read my article, it's like based on reading time. It's not very much, but it's like sometimes it is.
it's an inspiration though.
Yeah.
You think about it, just to know that, you here you are getting compensated for your
Yeah,
words. That's
exactly.
wonderful.
I know, and I actually get, a little bit more per word than I would if I was writing something for a client about shopping online or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, I don't do it for the money. I never really did, but I take monetary reward from the universe as like an energetic sign, like you're on the right path. So
That's right.
so
That's
it's
exactly what it
like
is.
some people argue like Deepak Chopra is the richest spiritual leader. I don't know what you call him, like of our time. My parents said that to me once. And I was like, yeah, that shows the
Think about it.
inspiration. He's like, yeah, like
Think about it. Yeah. It's abundance. It's an abundant world. It's an abundant universe. We have access to it. People think that only some are entitled to it. And that's a shame because it's available to anyone and everyone. You just have to find a way to tap into it. And the way that you do is by doing exactly what you're doing, following your intuitive nature, your intuitive source right now, and you're finding your way through it. But that's great. But speaking about your writing, man, tell me how the concept of wellness and oneness became your moniker, and like I know how it benefits in my eyes, Emily, but I'd like to hear like how does one benefit the other to you, or it actually does it? How do you tie wellness and oneness together?
Yeah. So I originally had a different name for what I was gonna do, but I about a year ago I came up with Wellness and Oneness. It kind of rolls off the tongue for one thing, but
Yeah,
also
it does.
because I was realizing people with the Ayurveda, I was deep into Ayurveda at this time last year, and I wasn't sure yet if I was going to do the meditation instructor certification. But I mean, first of all, Ayurveda is all about wellness and oneness itself because it's not just a medicine or a science. It's like a philosophy of life. So you are most well when you are most connected to the oneness of the universe.
Absolutely.
And you're balanced and you know who you are, and so you can make the right choices. You can be mindful, if it's about eating, you can be mindful. I have this certain element strongly in me today, so maybe if I have a lot of fire in me, then I should be eating cooling foods. I'm living right now in springtime in the United States, so I should be eating foods that are a little bit warmer because it's kind of cool and damp today. Like balancing it out, being mindful of where I am and who I am. And anyway, but also, so I mean, it all goes back to meditation. I'll say my first Medium post I ever wrote, and my first real spiritual experience was about 9 years ago. I was living in South Korea. I was a teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been around a little bit. I wasn't always a software engineer, but yeah, I was a teacher, and I started meditating every day at that time, and I don't know, I just strayed away from it after that. But one day, it didn't take very long. So I do think it doesn't matter how long you've been meditating, something amazing could happen to you on day one. But I was meditating, and all of a sudden, this feeling just washed over me where there was total equanimity, if that's the right word, like total just oneness.
Yeah.
I was just like, I could see my thoughts and feelings arising without any attachment. And I just felt total bliss. And it's so hard to maintain that, I think. It's funny.
Yeah,
I have such a strong memory of it, but I can't just reproduce it right
of
now.
course.
And then,
Therein lies the challenge of meditating. Yeah, as you
yeah,
know.
but and that was my first Medium post, was writing about that, very first. But I still write about that, and I'm going to be honest with you, I've never really gotten back to that exact state of mind, and that is my goal. Maybe that was like a teaser in
Yeah,
life to like, that's what you need to teach
that's
people about and go back to. But
that's where you need to tap into. That's where we got to get back to. I know it's tough. I personally have a hard time meditating, obviously for the same reasons and thoughts that millions of other people around the world do. It's very hard to quiet my mind. But I do. I can get there. I have to focus, like they say, always on the breath, which I do. But then sometimes I'm focusing on the breath, which it to me just gets
another
counterproductive
kind
at
of
times,
attachment. Yeah.
right? So I'm like, all right, just focus on the breath, but don't focus on focusing on the breath. So, so for everyone listening out there, it's not easy, but you can get to like the levels that Emily's obviously referring to, but you need to just, it's like anything else. We're creatures of habit. You have to practice it, right? You have to get involved with it.
But I will say it could happen to you anytime. But again,
Absolutely.
you do need to, I mean, you don't need to do anything, I guess, but like it is good to try to do it every day. And but since then I have had a lot of very interesting experiences in meditation, making me very sure I am beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is oneness. And what I mean by oneness is like there is connection between all of us and all things, and there is consciousness in all things, not just living things. Like there's just everything is consciousness.
Energy.
Yeah, and the way I know that for myself, like anybody can try to argue with me, but I just know it is because of meditation. And I've had experiences where I feel like I've expanded to the size of the universe. Like I don't know how big the universe is, but I felt really big. I sometimes feel like my head is way up in space and my body's sitting on the ground way down on earth.
Nice.
It's incredible. And it's just like I also do feel sometimes an intuitive, not in meditation, but an intuitive, sometimes in meditation, but just like in normal life, an intuitive feeling, like psychic mediumship, I guess, of how other people are feeling, their thoughts, maybe like other energies around us. I just know that our waking experience of life is not all there is to the story. That's because of meditation. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And you have the capabilities to recognize what you just said, other energies around you. I always like to talk about that because I sense, so does my wife too. Like we have a tendency to sense like the energy in a room, as they say. Like if you go sometimes and, it could be a party, could be a small, invite of some couples at a house. Sometimes like when you just walk into the room and you're like the hairs on the back of your neck, ooh, you know what I mean? Like you sense it, like either good or bad, because sometimes it's not necessarily positive, but that's what comes with being, like you're saying, in tune with our higher source, our higher selves, as I like to call it, because everything does come down to energy. And especially to your point, it's not just us as the living beings on this planet. It is everything. You could break down, speaking of your guy, Deepak Chopra, he's said it numerous times, that if you take a rock under the highest powered microscope and look as deep into that rock as you can, you're going to find exactly what's in the deepest realms of us. Nothing. We're space. We're energy.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean?
We're part of
Yeah. So
something,
that's,
right?
so it all comes down to energy. Everything is energy. We just move a lot slower than some of the higher beings who existed on this planet. The Lao Tzus, the Buddhas, the Jesus, and they were resonating at a higher frequency, I like to say, than like most of us. But that's why they also said, all that I can do, ye are gods too, as Jesus put it. And that we all have those capabilities, but we tend not to believe it. Why don't we believe it? Because we believe more in separation. We believe that we're not connected to that universal source, like you're referring to. And to me, that's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It makes me wonder if humans always were like that, because I am very interested lately in like ancient cultures. I suppose I always have been, but
Oh,
like and shamans
yeah.
from long periods of time in the past, and it makes me wonder if I think cultures, they actually, like the ancient Greeks didn't think of those stories and mythology as just a story. They actually literally
Yeah. Bought
believe those
into it.
things.
Yeah.
And we teach kids that like it was just a myth.
Yeah.
But like it makes me wonder, yeah, if you went back in time, or I guess we've all lived past lives, if we were more connected, we just took it as a fact that we were completely connected with the rest
I
of
have to think so. My,
what happened to us.
yeah, my like personal guru is still is, even though he's not with us. It was always Dr. Wayne Dyer. And towards the latter part of his career and his life, he started to talk more and more about what he called HEBs, highly evolved beings. And it's not just that they lived or reigned in like other, celestial planets or universes. He said, no, they were here, because I struggle with, Emily, looking back through time. I actually had a whole chapter about this, like in my last book, about why have we never known peace? You can go back centuries, millennia, you know what I mean? The Romans, I was just watching, because it was just this Easter weekend, and I always watched the 10 Commandments, killing, stoning people. Like, there was never a time of peace. There was, like, to your point, the shamans and other cultures that lived as highly evolved beings, where they understood that they were connected, and they would obviously never harm one another, never, take another's life, and they respected one another. But aside from those small circles, when did this species, you can call human beings, ever know peace?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, good question. And we
It,
don't
no,
have
it like baffles my mind. We're such a beautiful species, but yet the most simplistic of thoughts that generate from oneness, obviously, is like, how come we just can't get this shit right?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that is collectively our mission
Yeah.
in life,
Yeah.
is to get towards that. And like you said, we identify with separation. I think that means that is fear. So anything that
Exactly.
has to do with
Well
separation,
said. Well
fear.
said. Fear. Fear is the key. Fear is so much to do about it. I still
Yeah,
struggle with it. That is
we all do. That's literally
bravo, my
what
friend.
it means to be human.
Yeah.
Is to have that feeling of separation, like I'm not supported and nobody cares about me, and if I make the wrong decision, I'll be out on the street or something. But no, you are, if you completely embrace love, then you will remember that you are connected and supported, and because death is not the end, that's not the
No.
worst thing that could
Yeah.
happen to you, and that everything is really happening for a reason.
Yeah.
Everything's happening. So
There are no
but-
accidents in a perfect universe. I like to say, to steal again from my guru, Dr. Dyer, there are no accidents in a perfect universe.
And but yet we lose connection with the love and that trust in the universe with fear. And that's just part of being human. And I really think it's our mission as humans, all of us. We all have different life purposes, I think, but essentially
Yeah.
we are here to go back towards love and to completely forget fear and to
Or to
help
get
others
back,
do it. Yeah.
or to get back to that core that we are one, which is the perfect tie into something else I wanted to talk to you about. Obviously, oneness, meaning we are one. I always say that it's not just from the physical side, because I have listeners and friends of mine who just say, yeah, Danny, I understand oneness. It means, I won't hurt you, you don't hurt me. Well, that's all, well and good if you want to look at it from that perspective. But oneness, as you know, Emily, very clearly, it goes beyond that. It goes to a spiritual essence of all of us as well too. So I know how I share we are one, that concept. How do you like to share that through your writing?
Yeah, so through my writing, I try to aim most of my posts on Medium and the book I'm writing towards something about the human experience that helps us remember, like, why are you worried? Why are you fearful? Why do you have anxiety? Remember that we are one. And also I write sometimes, I used to write a lot more about spiritual awakenings because I was going through my first one.
Yeah.
Had other ones since then, but that the sign of, to me, when someone asks me to define what is a spiritual awakening, to me is when because intellectually you can understand, I'm not going to hurt you, you're not going to hurt me, everything's one. But until you've really had the experience of waking up, that's when you realize, oh my God, there is actually consciousness in every single thing. And that is, to me, that's a spiritual awakening. Like, and there could be other things alongside it. Like for me, it's Ayurveda and twin flames. And
because you look at every aspect of life differently once you have that awakening.
yes, it's like I said, walking out of the door as Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What was I missing all this time? And because it felt like a mundane world before, and you didn't see that you were completely supported. There's somehow spiritual energy all around you, guiding you through life. That's amazing. And how could you have ever not seen that?
Yeah.
But you can't and no one can make you have a spiritual awakening. It just happens, right?
Yeah.
So
I just try
anyway.
to tell folks, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. And like I just try to share also to stay receptive. That actually puts like another job, I guess, requirement in our life to some degree. But if people are teetering with their spirituality and like come to me saying, Danny, how do I evolve more? How do I grow more spiritually? If you're at that point, right, Emily, you have to be receptive to what may come to you. You have to know that the answers, like they say, are never without. The answers are always within. So to do that, you got to pay attention to what? Your intuition.
Right.
You have to pay homage to your intuition. People say, yeah, but no. That's I like to say too, like, when we pray to a God or a higher source, it's called prayer. But when that God or higher source answers back, what's that? That's intuition. That's what that is. That's your higher source reaching to you energetically, I might add. And it comes in the form of intuition.
Yes.
And that's why we should never dissuade that to any degree, right? Yeah. Like, we need to pay homage to it more. But that's how I know I have come to find my growth, my evolution, my spirituality is through paying on and listening, because you're never steered in a wrong direction, right?
I completely agree. So that's another topic I often write about, that like all knowledge does not need to come through the senses.
Well said. I love that.
There is a kind of wisdom. There's wisdom. I think the only kind of wisdom, like knowledge comes from and experiences come through the senses. Wisdom comes from here and here, right? So you have to be able to look within. I think a meditation practice is essential to everybody's life, or at least something like it, because you have to be able to stop and not get distracted by all of the sensory input, and not only rely on your senses telling you something is true. If you know it's true, then nobody should be able to convince you otherwise. And I've had some of the craziest things like come through my intuition. Right. And people were like, Emily, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And I just knew, and I was right. Yeah. I'm not always right about everything, but I've a lot of the past 10 months or so of my life, maybe 8 months, have been about learning to trust myself more. It's so hard because our modern society especially has taught us that science has the answer to everything, or could. And that's what I learned in my philosophy degree that I got too, is if science can't show us or
Then
couldn't,
it doesn't exist, right?
then it's not yeah. Of course, there's philosophical things you can study
Yeah.
that science doesn't have to do with, like ethics and stuff. But
But even nowadays, science can't argue with like the unexplainable, like how I just referenced the Chopra thing with the microscope, and you get down to its bare minimum, you know, subatomic. There's nothing there. So what is that? It's energy. So science now is starting to come around. You know, that's why I'm a big fan of Einstein.
yeah, I was just gonna say,
Yeah, he had the greatest, like the greatest passages, and there's, you know, 60, 70 years ago. But he called our greatest delusion, as he dubbed it, was the thought that we're separate
yes.
from whatever he called it. He goes, that's our biggest problem. And it's, you know, it's fake, because we all are connected. Yeah.
Well, and it makes you wonder, a segue into talking about like what is reality. It makes you wonder, like, I don't know, maybe it doesn't make most people wonder. It makes me wonder, and always has, like, what makes this reality that we're experiencing? This is waking life, or maybe it's not. This could be a dream, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, like, what makes this different from a dream? Because in a dream, you feel like things are pretty real.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to express that in posts, books, podcasts, blogs. I view dreams as a direct correlation to the fact that A, that we're spiritual beings,
Yes.
and B, to me, it's a dress rehearsal, Emily. Like, we go to sleep and we enter a new realm,
Yes.
and then we awaken out of it. So what is when we, you know, transition to the next life or to the next realm? It's the same thing. We're going to go to sleep again one day, and we're going to wake up and we're going to, oh, that was all a dream. Son of a bitch. I knew it, right?
That's right.
That's what I think the surprise is going to be. Granted, I can't attest to it yet, but, you know, all of us will at that time and place, right?
Yes. No, I completely agree that death is just a transition to a new awakening. It's an awakening. And you're going to be like, oh, that whole thing that was my life, that happened pretty fast. And
yeah, right.
What was that? But I do think we are here for some purpose, but also
absolutely.
Dreams are when, I strongly believe, and I'll tell you why, but that we leave our bodies. Our bodies sleep and they need to heal and rejuvenate physically. And we go into a spiritual realm and we're working out problems. Like you said, it's kind of like a dress rehearsal. In fact, I've had many dreams in the past year where I am witnessing people having a dress rehearsal. It's funny that you said that. Watching people rehearsing, literally in the dream. And I woke up from all those dreams like, oh, this is just telling me that life is just a play. It's a movie, and I'm playing.
The world's a stage, right? Even Shakespeare said that.
I mean, I can't tell you why I am playing the role of Emily Jennings, and why I'm, you know, why have I chosen this life path? Did I choose it? Did I plan it? Couldn't tell you. I have some thoughts about it, but that's the mystery of life. But yeah, this is not real in the sense that my true identity is not Emily Jennings or this body or anything. It is my soul. My soul that has gathered all the information and experiences over time.
Exactly. I can go back to another Lao Tzu quote that I remember from Dr. Dyer many years ago, when like Lao Tzu said, that which is real never changes. And everything in this realm of the physical, from our hair, our bodies, everything changes constantly. You're not the same Emily as 8-year-old Emily. I'm not the same Danny as 8-year. We're constantly changing. What doesn't change? The constant that is you, the constant that is your essence, your spirit. That's, and like, and when people get a handle on that, they try to think about it too. Like, hey, maybe you're onto something here with this whole oneness. Yeah. because we don't die. We just transition.
And the main thing people should do, in my opinion, when you're meditating, is trying to get the answer to who is the experiencer
Yes.
of this life. And when you realize that the experiencer is what doesn't change, that's eternal, then things start to change for you. You don't get so attached to all the horrible things happening in your life, and you can actually laugh about tragedy. Sometimes people probably think you're crazy, but like, you don't get attached. And
I love it. We're not noticing, we're the noticer.
Yes.
We're just we're outside, we're the noticer, seeing what's going on.
Yeah. Yep, that's right. But I was going to say something else about dreams that I don't know if you find interesting.
Please.
So I never knew until a couple years ago that most people don't remember their dreams every night. I wouldn't say it's every night, but I remember my dreams most nights. I have my dream journal.
I'll try and show this if it comes through.
That's your dream journal. Oh.
Yep.
I can't
read
all
some of them. Well, there's probably some like foul language in some of them, so I'm glad it wasn't. But I leave this here on my desk because I get up at 4:30 in the morning, and it's typically something I'm coming right out of a REM sleep at that time. Exactly, so I have somewhat of a handle. So I like to jot down what the highlights were, and your point, it's helpful.
They tell you. Dreams to me are very important for deciphering what is going on in my life. And I really have noticed, I could be wrong, I haven't done a study on it, but that the more spiritually heightened, consciously elevated you are, the more you remember your dreams. Because you're spiritually connected.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I have a lot of weird dreams in my life. I remember a lot of dreams. So in the last few months, I've been having dreams where, a lot of my life I've had dreams where I'm awake and dreaming at the same time. And what that means is I wake up in my bedroom. I know exactly where I am. Doesn't feel like a dream, but there is also something in the room.
Wow. Almost sounds like a lucid dream.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was a night terrors for a long time, because some of them were scary. The thing would be attacking me, but I don't call them night terrors anymore. I don't know what to call them. But so lately, in the last few months, they've been spirits. Like, I think it's like my spirit guides, or something like a spirit guide. It might sound so crazy, but that I wake up and I see a portal open in the room, or something is beckoning me into the living room. Somehow, like an arrow is pointing that way. It's really weird. Like, I'll see like an arrow on the wall, like, go that way.
Wow, cool.
I'm like, I don't want to get up, but then I get up sometimes and I go and look, and then it's kind of gone by then. But like, the living room will even illuminate. But the ones with the portals are really interesting. I've had a handful of those in the past few months, and something opens and these spirits are saying, come on, come with us. And they're trying to pull me out of my body, pull me to
that
go
is cool.
Yeah, but I'm too scared.
You're too scared?
Because right now, talking to you, I could be like, oh, next time I'll go.
I'll do it. But when it's happening, you're probably a little apprehensive, right?
Well, right. But eventually I think I'll get there. So I'll check in with you later and tell you if I
by all means.
But I'm terrified, because they're like, come with us. And I'm like, I don't know where they're taking me, or if I'll ever come back to this body. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I can't just like die.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where you're taking me. And they don't like communicate in that way, where they're like, and we're gonna take you to Jupiter, and then we're gonna, like, I don't know, right? So,
well, do you sense something positive or friendly or something from it, or not?
Yes. And one of the times, I believe it was the face of my grandmother. I remember their faces, and
wow, that's interesting.
I've never seen. It's only happened a handful of times. I'm getting so many goosebumps telling you. Yeah, it's so crazy. But yeah, and then for the past year, many times I've woken up. I'm sure you've had the same experience, where you wake up and you don't really remember where you've been, but you just feel exhausted, like you've been traveling all night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a total tangent about dreams, but I think dreams are so important for the spiritual journey of everyone, and for remembering your oneness.
Yeah.
because then when you wake up from a dream like that, you cannot deny to yourself what reality is.
Exactly.
You get so caught up in the daily stuff going on in your life, but those
And it
early,
kind of lends a credence to something else I wanted to touch base with you on was the illusion that is life in general. So seeing that, like once we get to that point with dreams and our like spiritual essence, we can say to ourselves, all right, I know that I'm a spiritual being and I'm having just this human experience. It's not the other way around. Like some people think that they're humans having a spiritual experience. No, you're a spiritual being first. Again, we are, that which is real never changes. So then like when we address that as, okay, from that perspective, I could look at this life now and understand that in those terms, not like I can jump out of a window of a 10-story building. People tend to take things too far. But when you know that this realm is the illusion,
yes.
that also helps to, uncover more of a spirituality, right? But that was something I wanted to touch on you too, regarding ego as well too, and the illusion that is life.
Yeah. Yeah. Ego is important to think about, because to me, the ego is actually the veil. Is it? Wait, is this what I want to say? Well, so I think of reality and the illusion is like a veil to me, especially because of all those dreams I've had. It's like when you wake up, suddenly this kind of veil falls and it's like shrouding you just a little bit between you and like the spiritual essence of everything.
I love that description.
You do. Yeah, that's just how I feel about it, because
But it's hard to describe.
how can I wake up in my bed, know where I am, and there's like a person also standing there that's not really there? What is reality? So to me, my consciousness is creating my reality. I'm sure of that. Maybe collectively we're all creating our realities.
Yeah.
I don't know yet how to make my reality exactly as I want it to be. I don't know if that's possible.
Well, everyone's working on that.
Yeah, we're all working on that.
Yeah,
Right?
I am.
But so like I have a very popular post on my Medium called "Physical Reality is an Illusion," and it's just about how, like, when you stop and think about your life and the things that have happened, like how can objects and how can the world and objects just be mundane and meaningless? Like, we're supposed to kind of think, we're programmed to think that there's no meaning behind the events in your life, everything's kind of random. But
Most people do think along those lines.
Yeah, but when you start seeing things, like people usually in their spiritual awakening see the repeated numbers like 222, 5,
Yeah.
and then you realize, I cannot ignore this anymore. What is happening? And you have to face, you cannot look away anymore. You have to face the fact that there is more to this reality than we see. And then you start questioning, it's like quantum physics, like, what are particles and waves? I don't know if most people think about that, but like, what is this box? Is it solid? Like you said, if you look in a microscope, there's actually space between all the little, and then it's actually particles and waves. Is this even solid? Why am I perceiving this as a solid thing and not a wave, not a vibration?
Yep.
Anyway, I could talk for hours and hours about that. But yeah, I mean, I think and I've always thought a lot about like, what is reality, and yeah, is it a dream?
I wrote a song, "Is This the Dream?" It's one of my songs. Is this the dream that we're living in, or what we call each day? It's a cute little country ditty of mine, I might add. But yeah, it's always been at the forefront of my existence, like, because I know that there's more.
Yeah.
And I know, again, getting back to what this body represents and doesn't represent, it's a house for me.
Yes, it's a house.
It's where I reside while I'm here.
And your ego is a non-physical house,
Yeah.
I think. You asked about the ego. I got off on a tangent, but I also think our ego is essential to our lives. A lot of people talk about ego death. I hate that term. I write a lot about that too,
I
because
haven't heard that one yet. Ego death.
you haven't heard. Oh, wow. It's like the buzz, it's like a buzzword or
Okay.
but people talk about like, well, when you experience ego death, then that's when you have like enlightenment.
Okay. Well,
But
it
you don't want your ego to die. You want
nah.
the attachments to
People
die.
don't understand how important the ego is, although it is our nemesis while we're here. There's
I
so
don't
many
know.
words you can look at it. Edge got EGO, edge got out
Edging
is,
God out. Yeah.
is what Wayne Dyer used to say years
Yeah.
ago. And I just try to paint the picture that it's put in place because when we're on that other side, when we're in total oneness, that's all we know. And for us to realize what we are, Emily, as you know, we have to experience what we are not.
Yes. We have to
So
experience separation.
to me, that's our biggest reason why we're here, to experience what we are not. The ego is put in place to keep driving that point home.
Yeah.
Because that is what we are not. It's going to keep trying to tell us that we're separate. It's going to make us think that, we're important and the other person isn't. Everything that the ego, everything that everyone knows about the ego is true, but its foundational element is to keep us separate.
Yes.
Because there's no way for us to realize oneness, if we feel that we're
So now the
separate.
opposite. Yeah.
Right?
And we need the ego to play the role that we're playing. I don't know why we need to play the role that we're playing, but like to be a human, for some reason, humanity exists. And to be a human, you must have an ego. Otherwise, you are not separate and you're just in oneness all the time. What's the point of incarnating, right? But yeah, that's the ego. I don't like the term ego death because I don't think the ego needs to die. We should make friends with it. And
understand it at the very least. And again, it comes down to that truth that it's there for a reason, which is why we're here. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a tough concept for many to grasp, but for me, it was so very tough for so very long. Because I was raised, like a musician. I'm actually still an active singer and a musician. So like, like when you're out there, like, especially like when I was younger and getting record deals and doing shows on the road and stuff like that, how do you not want to strut your stuff? That's like what it's about. You have to show that confidence. Anyone who's on stage, I guess you have to have some form of that ego.
To inspire others, we must play these roles.
Yeah. I mean, so I'd be on stage and I'd be, feeling my oats, man, knowing that I'm putting on a show, and I would love it, and I used to love the energy that it gave me, but it took time for me to, evolve and uncover what I deem my own spirituality, but it did. So I've been able to put it, in its proper place nowadays. But I can still go on stage and rock, just so you know that.
Well, I mean, the ego, I don't know. Like there are positive things about an ego.
Sure.
And the universe gets to experience itself through our ego and our separation, right? So it's going to get trippy, but it's like,
no, think about it.
I'm experiencing myself just by looking and talking to you. So the ego is important. There are good things about it, and we should recognize that.
Yeah.
But another thing I was going to say about reality, so I didn't mention before, but as you know, I do tarot. So tarot cards, I won't go into like tarot, what is it and everything. Most people probably know, but basically, yeah, it's a form of divination, or I don't like to tell the future with tarot as much if I can avoid it, but I like to read the energies and things. But in relation to your question about illusions and what is reality, I think this is a perfect example of my consciousness manifesting reality. Like, to me, all of these cards could be arranged in any way, as long as I don't know about it until I pick the card, then it's real.
Okay.
Then it's manifested. So they're all in my mind. They're all in your mind. That's how I see it. And I think a lot of people who read tarot don't see it that way. But to me, it doesn't matter. It might not even matter if I shuffle first, unless I know what the top cards are or something, right?
Okay.
But because it's the same concept. So like the same concept in tarot, like this card will manifest the way the message needs to be for you right now. It's the same concept as if I walk out my front door right now, anything could happen to me. There's infinite possibilities, infinite potential.
Sure.
At any moment, my life could change. At any moment, I could get a message. So why not from cards?
Wow.
They're just particles and waves, right? They could
Absolutely. That's what we are, my friend. Hey, listen, I want to put you on the spot here for a second. This is something that I do with all my guests, and
Right.
I definitely want to do it with you because I know that your answer is going to be wonderful and honest and heartfelt. But I like to ask my guests a question, and I ask them all the same question. You may have heard it if you happen to delve into some of my podcasts, but if not, either way, I'm still going to ask you a question. Are you up for this?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
Simple question. And the question is this, and I don't care if it takes you 1 word, 10 words, 100 words. I'd like, whatever comes first from through your heart and soul. But the question is this: why oneness?
It's the point of living. It's the point of existence. So I think I said earlier, the whole point of being here is to realize oneness. If that's like the only thing you did in your life, you've done a pretty good job. If people spend 40 years working a job and they think they've achieved something, even, families are important. The kind of house you live in, you've achieved that. Doesn't really matter.
Nah.
In your life, not really. I mean, the relationships that you form matter, but the material possessions definitely don't. But if you have come closer to oneness, that's enlightenment. Oneness is enlightenment to me. And that is the whole point of all of our existence. And when you've gotten to enlightenment, when you've gotten to oneness, you need to turn around and help other people get there.
Thank you. That's our mission, to turn around and help other people. And that's what we are both doing here. And I appreciate that. So listen, my friend, do me a favor. I want you to tell my friends how and where they can follow Emily Jennings, Wellness and Oneness. Give us a list, and I will make sure everything gets posted on the description of this podcast, as well as here on this, what will be this YouTube version of this as well, too. So how do we find Wellness and Oneness and Emily Jennings?
Well, the central place for everything is wellnessoneness.com. That's all one word, no dots or underscores. Wellnessoneness.com. And there you'll find my Instagram, which is the @ symbol and Wellness Oneness. Underscore? I can't remember. I think there is.
Yes. It is an underscore. I have it from your email.
I don't know why I can't, Anyway, and then on TikTok, actually, I do tarot readings mostly on TikTok, and it's divine_hilarity, because I started out doing comedy tarot, and then that kind of went south a little bit, and then I was like, well, I'll do kind of funny tarot, because I can't not be funny. Anyway, and then let's see. So the really big one is Medium. I write on Medium. And my Medium username is Emily_Jennings. Also look out for my book coming out soon about twin flames. It's really about oneness.
Nice.
Flames about oneness. And
you're going to have updates on your site about that?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yes. And I hope it'll be in book form and on Kindle, all on Amazon. So those are the main things. And I do classes. I teach meditation classes, Ayurveda classes. I do spiritual coaching, one-on-one meditation coaching, and I do tarot readings. It's all on my website, wellnessoneness.com. So that's where you can find me.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Emily, I don't know how to thank you enough, my friend. I had a feeling this is going to be quite the interesting chat as it was, but I thank you. I appreciate your passion, your devotion, and mostly your desire to really share your message of wellness and oneness to the world. And at this time, I want to thank you, my friends, for tuning in to this special episode. Guys, as you know, I feel blessed to cross paths with souls like Emily here. And as long as you keep tuning in, I'll keep sharing these stories, and it inspires me. I hope it inspired you out there. So please keep in touch. And until next time, as you know, I wish you peace, love, light, and continued oneness. Namaste.
Namaste.
The words that will comfort me, I am.
I thank you again for listening to That Oneness Guy podcast. Please take a moment to subscribe to this feed wherever you may be listening to or watching this podcast. And please look me up and follow me on social media. You can find That Oneness Guy on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just search for That Oneness Guy. And finally, to stay in touch with all things oneness, my books, and performances, please visit my websites, thatonenessguy.com and dannyrongo.com. In closing, remember this: oneness is not a religion. You can call it a spirituality, but it is more than that. It is a truth and a knowing. The knowing that we emanate from one source. Just like branches on any one tree, we are individualized expressions of that source. This is the truth of our race, the human race.
I am one of many who have come to sing their song.